Massachusetts, wearing white trunks with a black stripe, weighing 184, 1/2 pounds, the world's heavyweight champion, Rocky Marciano.
As you would expect, Rocky Marciano was an Italian-American. His grandfather had emigrated to America from a village near Naples in 1914 and worked as a blacksmith. Rocky Marciano was born in Brockton, Massachusetts in 1923 by the name Rocco Francesco Marciano. It was soon after his birth that Rocky would face his first adversity. He showed his survival instinct by recovering from pneumonia. He grew up during the Great Depression but did not have the poverty-stricken background of many boxing champions. Marciano was a late starter to boxing, and his lack of skill set, usually garnered from a proper amateur career, would show throughout his career. His first sporting aim was to be a baseball player. He made it to semi-pro level as a player, but was drafted to fight in World War II in 1943. Marciano was a combat engineer and ferried supplies across the English Channel to Normandy. It was only whilst serving in the army that his boxing career began. He fought regularly for his unit whilst serving. At 5'10", Marciano was a tiny heavyweight, especially by today's standards. He had a stout, soft-looking body and short arms. He had a short and poor amateur career where he was booed out of the ring after being disqualified against former Golden Gloves champion Henry Lester. He lost 4 fights out of 12 amateur contests. After this disappointment, he tried to make it as a baseball player again in 1947, but he was not signed by the Chicago Cubs after a trial. He then signed a professional boxing contract with Al Wheel, an associate of gangsters such as Frankie Carbo and Blinky Palermo. Wheel would exploit Marciano disgustingly by taking 50% of his earnings. His lack of boxing skills was clearly evident, but his power was even more striking. His baseball background had given him tremendous rotational power. These physical attributes, born from thousands of swings of a bat and throw after throw, transferred into frightening knockout power. Though it was his savagery and tenacity that allowed Marciano to thrive. Inside the ring, there was nobody more ruthless. He would do anything to win, even if he had to tear up the rulebook. He could soak up a sickening amount of punishment and keep charging forward, face first, looking for the KO. Often severely damaged and bleeding, he looked a fearsome mess in his victories. In his first 24 straight wins, he earned 22 KOs, and 19 of these were before the 3rd round. In 1952, he fought an old Joe Louis, once considered the greatest heavyweight of all time. Louis was forced out of retirement to repay taxes, and although was moderately successful, he never looked close to the formidable fighter he once was. This was stark contrast to the fearsome, in-prime Marciano, who was a human wrecking ball. The ending was inevitable, but gruesomely shocking nonetheless. The marauding Marciano punched Louis through the ropes, an unconscious heap. In 1952, Marciano would get his shot at the title against one of the most skillfully tricky fighters in history, Jersey Joe Walcott. In the first round, Walcott pivoted to the left with a counter left hook and dropped Marciano for the first time in his career. Marciano survived, but was soon a bloody mess with gashes around his eyes. His lip was split and he was bleeding from a cut on the top of his head. After 12 rounds, Marciano was well behind on points and severely damaged. His trainer said he would need a knockout, and the knockout that came was and is one of the most spectacular knockouts of all time.
Connor's leading on all three scorecards. 7 rounds to 5, 7-4 in 1, and 8 rounds to 4. Rocky Marciano has to knock out Jersey Joe Walcott to win this fight, and his corner has told him so.
Walcott, a pro boxing veteran with over 20 years experience, developed a counter-punching style when backed against the ropes. Marciano landed a right hand from the gods, sneaking a short right hand with full rotation inside the counter of his opponent, completely spinning Walcott's head as captured in a famous photograph. He was sent crashing face first into the canvas with his arm hanging grotesquely over the ropes. The fight was waved off as Walcott was out cold. In the return bout, Marciano knocked Walcott out in the first round, ending the fantastic career of the former champion. He also defeated Ezzard Charles in back-to-back fights, first on points and later by knockout. In these fights he survived savage cuts that would most likely have ended modern fights. This included a 2-inch long, 1-inch deep gash in the first fight and a split nostril in the second. He completely ignored pain and injury in his mission of destruction. His last fight was another tricky one, against an all-time great of the sport. Archie Moore, a veteran of 229 fights and 126 knockouts in total in his career. A whopping 60,000 fans watched the fight at Yankee Stadium. Marciano, the heavy favourite, was dropped again for the second time in his career. However, Moore was dropped himself twice in round 6 and again in round 8. Marciano then bludgeoned him unconscious in the 9th round. Rocky Marciano retired with the perfect record of 49 fights undefeated. In those 49 wins, only 6 went the distance. A testament to the viciousness of Marciano. He smelled blood and went for the knockout each and every fight from round 1 to the final bell. In 1969, the incredible life of the former champion was cut short when a flight from Chicago to Iowa crashed. To this day, Rocky Marciano is considered the most ruthless, savage fighter in boxing history. His legendary heart and determination to win at all costs is an attribute yet to be repeated in the heavyweight division.
He's not a great fighter scientifically, but just a mauler, a brawler. One fight, his nose is hanging off, he kept coming. Can't put him down, can't teach no kid to fight like Marciano. He just had his own style, was courageous. He wasn't as great as me, wasn't as beautiful, everybody know that, but I don't know if I would have beaten him in his style and my style. He could have pointed me, could have knocked me down, could have beat me.